Test 1 2. All right. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you on this beautiful? What is today already? Today is Monday. We just got started. Wow. Well, good morning to you on this lovely Monday. Today is indeed June 8th. Are you ready to go out again? Are you ready to engage the world once again? I don't mean work. I don't mean, obviously, the things that you have to do or to provide for your family. I don't mean that. I mean just the rest of life. Just engaging the new life, because it definitely isn't the same. I went out yesterday to get some food with my mom, and not only did it take longer, I mean, we couldn't sit down at the tables, even though we were just picking up some food, because they had to clean them and space them out. And we had these masks on, and there was no AC in this restaurant. So it was super hot, and I must say I was getting dizzy. And so I sat down, but then we couldn't sit down. So finally, blah, blah, blah. It took us an hour to pick up some food because they didn't have enough people working in the kitchen. So it was just, and I don't know if it was the first day they were open. My point is, I came home exhausted. Like, man, that was so hard to do that. And perhaps, my tribe here is we're the feelers, we're the empaths. And so we process life not through, as I said, okay, I have to, or through that practical part. I mean, obviously we have to do certain things, and so we do them. But we process things through our body, through our senses, through our heart. And so, yeah, that was difficult. We wanted to go to another store after that to get some other stuff, and I told my mom, I'm done. Like, and she was kind of done too when we came home. And it was kind of one of those mornings where you wanted to feel really awesome, but as I said, it was kind of one of those odd days. How ready are you to engage life once again? How are you feeling? How are your emotions? How is your body? How are your senses? As I said, we have to do certain things. So that you have to work, you have to do this, you have to do that. But what about the other things? The things that, as I said, are maybe, quote, non-essential, as they say these days. And yet you find yourself kind of in this quandrum of, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel safe? Do I have the energy? And so it was interesting yesterday, just kind of feeling some of those things. And I think our energy, at least, again, for some of us, not everyone, if you are a practical type, kind of a do person, you have been energized this whole time, because there's always something to do. But if you are an empath, if you are like I said, a feeler, or someone who processes life through your heart, through your mind, then I wonder how you're doing with these new changes, from going to the store to getting a haircut. And how was that experience for you? If maybe you ventured out, do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable? Or are you just like, take this stupid thing off and I'm going to just go out there? Or are you like getting different colors of masks and you're making a little, I don't know, nonprofit out of it? Are you that type? How are you artistically, or maybe creatively, or with your heart, empathetically, if that's a word? Go some makeup words. How are you showing up in the world today? And how are you engaging others? Do you find yourself being short with people? Obviously, with your loved ones, we all know that we're being short with those that are closest to us. But I mean, just with the general public, are you finding yourself being upset, being happy? Are you relaxed? Are you tense? Hello, Brett. Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, Brett. Yeah, so we have a lot of things, right, even politically, that surface for some. And as I've explained, we have different kinds of people. Some that are in the gut triad, and they tend to be the doers. And so perhaps politics is a part of your experience and you process these changes through politics. Others, as I said, who are in the head triad, they process things through fear. And then those that are in the heart triad, they process things through their heart. How am I serving other people? So politics definitely is a part of that. And but what about internally? I know the thing that is sometimes difficult, and yet it seems like this year has been a lot about the internal. What about internally? What is stirring up behind the politics, behind the do's and don'ts or the injustices? What is stirring up inside? And that's the kind of work that I like to process, because studying neuroscience and studying psychology for so many years, I've understood that everything starts in the mind and then it quickly moves to the gut, meaning to our body. The psychiatrist field or the neurosciences, they say that a thought turns into gut, meaning into your body, at 100 times the speed that it moves to your heart. And so, in other words, you may have a very beautiful thought or a very not beautiful thought, and our bodies will react much faster than our hearts. And so that's why we sometimes have to, as many people say, go back to your heart, or to breathe so that you can go back to the breath, as some call it. And sometimes, what's inside our heart or our minds can be fear, or it can be love. And now at the same time, anger, frustration, injustice, obviously what we're seeing in terms of racial issues is very important. And so all three triads, all three centers of intelligence, the body, the mind, the heart, are very important for survival. But as I always say here, I like to go deeper. And so one of the things that let's go through the centers of intelligence. One of the things that let's start with the gut triad, meaning the doers, the practical types, those people that might be head repressed or heart repressed, meaning that in the heat of the battle, they may not find their heart, because maybe it's scary to go there. They may not find their mind, meaning the logic, because they may not trust their logic. And so for those in the gut triad, they struggle, as I said, with anger. Now, their beauty, their contribution to the world is that they are very action-driven. They are people that get things done. They are reformers. If you study the Enneagram, which is the tool that I primarily use, you have the 8, the 9s, and the 1s. And so the 8s, they call them the natural-born leaders. And so they are in the gut triad, and so we need leadership, right? We need leaders at this time. The 9s, they call them the peacemakers. And even though peace obviously doesn't usually mean action well, no, I can't say that. What I mean is anger is what I meant to say. Behind a lot of peacemakers really is a righteous indignation, a frustration that maybe they struggle sometimes to show up in the world with their black and whiteness. And so they use that righteous indignation to peacefully protest. So you see a lot of people right now that would peacefully protest that are 9s in the Enneagram. The 1s are the reformers. Again, we're in the center of intelligence of the the gut triad. These are individuals who are the reformers. They are the perfectionists. They're going to process life through black and white. Is this right or is this wrong? Is this up or down, left or right? Don't bother me with the nuances of things. This is the right way to do it. And normally it's my way or the highway, which is very important, right? Imagine an accountant not being left brain enough and kind of like, doctoring your numbers. You know what I mean? So as I said, all these gifts, excuse me, I need to drink more water. All of these gifts have a place in society. And so you have those people who right now, I would say, might find it pretty easy to show up in the world, excuse me, pardon me, because, as I said, of the value of getting things done. And so, you think of education. There was just a study put out, I think it was over the weekend, how online distance learning isn't working for kids in elementary and middle school and high schoolers, that it's failing kids because they're not learning enough. And of course, as usual, it's worse among the urban poor. I don't even say the urban poor, black and brown people, because they don't have the quiet spaces to study, or maybe quote a stay-at-home mom, or some of the built-in peace and quiet and support that a typical middle or upper class family will have, regardless of color, of course. But we're talking about just this very important thing that we have to be concerned about. How are kids going to really progress? Now, I think that obviously technology is the way of the future. The internet, as I said earlier, is my religion, not my God, but my religion, meaning the tool through which I believe we have to show up in the world. But we have to be mindful that these small children don't have yet the developmental capacity to process data and to self-correct and to work with an online teacher without the social support, without that teacher to be by your side, who you can physically touch and hear their voice and just see them move in their room, and then all the rhythms that go with elementary school and middle school and high school. I feel it as an old guy when I take online classes. For me, as a creative, you might as well kill me, because there is no social component. There is no collaboration. It's all very much, hello, Omar. Greetings to you, my friend. It's all just a bunch of, knowledge based. And I think online stuff works really well for those that are very practical, that are more logic based, or maybe that are more driven by data or by rules. Again, back to the 8, 9s, and 1s in that head center of intelligence. The gut center of intelligence, those people that are more black and white, they will thrive in online learning. Because if you've taken any classes online, I have taken many classes online, it's all about following the rules, doing this by this date, blah, blah, blah. There is no relationship, conversation piece, social piece. So that's very difficult. And so we have to know kind of how to show up in the world these days, right? How are you showing up? And I think it's kind of in some ways it is like a positive step that we're, quote, opening up our economy. And so I'm not talking again about the economics of it all, or even the political stuff. I'm not concerned with that alone. To me, those are all symptoms, but I'm more concerned with the soul. How is your soul through all this? And how is your mind? How is your body? How is your heart? And I guess to continue with the centers of intelligence, if you are in the heart triad, right now you might be really struggling because you can't love people. The 2, 3s, and the 4s, they are the heart types. And so it's all about love. It's all about the heart, meaning being led by your heart. The 2s, they call them the empaths, or the givers, the people that are the most hospitable, the most kind in the Enneagram. And so it's tough to be kind, back to online, through a computer. You can't see a lot of emotion or body language, or you struggle. Obviously, you can't hug, you can't shake hands, you can't receive a kind word. That you're talking into a computer, and so you don't get that one-on-one connection that the 2s long for. And so being in the heart center right now can be difficult. And I would say those are the ones perhaps that are more eager than anyone to get out there again for the social part of it. The 3s, which I am one, we are the achievers. And even though we like to achieve, but at the end of the day, we achieve because of the connection that it warrants, because of the social and the heart connection that it gives. And so, again, it's difficult to feel connected to people through a computer. Or it's easy to feel like you're not making a difference. And what the 2, 3s, and 4s deal with is deep levels of shame, that we're not doing enough, that it must be us who are struggling. It must be that we're not doing enough. Thank you so much, Omar. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Omar. Thank you. And so I appreciate that. Welcome, by the way, my dear Omar. And so we struggle in the heart triad with doing things that can help other people, or for the 3s, achieving. And so that failure can really sit in. For the 4, it's all about being unique. They call them the individualists, or some people call them the artists. But it's not just about creating music or painting. It's about being unique. It's about showing up in the world in a very unique way, like nobody else. And again, online, it kills the 4s, because what's so unique about you just being another number on a roster, and you turning in just yes and no's and things by a certain date? There's no uniqueness that you can really express through filling out a survey online, right? And so the 4s, that's why you see a lot of the 4s trying to write music. I mean, just look online, all of your favorite artists, they're all trying to do these online shows, not just for the financial gain, but because they are creatives and they want to love, they want to create, they want to be unique. And so now the 5s, I think the Amazon guy must be here. The 5, 6, and 7s, they call them the head types. And meaning their center of intelligence is the mind, is thoughts. They process and show up in the world through logic, through thinking, through a series of data, of points of data. And so when they show up in the world right now, they're not looking at it as how can I love or be loved, or how can I be aggressive, or how can I change the world. They're more thinking, is this the right logical thing to do? Does this make sense? Is this right? And not so much as the righteous types, but is it logical? And so what the 5, 6, and 7s deal with as their quote vice versus their virtue is fear and a feeling of insecurity. I don't mean like they're insecure themselves. That might be true, but more as I'm not sure that I can trust other people, or trust myself, or trust this system. They long for safety. They long for stability. Maybe it's a better word than security. Because logically they're like, this doesn't make sense to me, they will move towards a lack of safety, or feeling unsafe, unsupported. And so for those in the mind triad, or in the the head triad, they might want to move towards the breath, towards the peace that surpasses all understanding, towards the breath, meaning the body. So one of the things that I do when I'm like thinking too much and my thoughts are betraying me is I move to the breath. This is what I learned in yoga for 3 years. I did yoga every week for 3 years. I learned the power of the breath, how the breath can literally calm you down, can give you a sense of connection with yourself. Because what happens, thinking again of this triad, or of this triangle, when you're in your head, it's almost like you lose touch with your body. You lose touch also with your heart. You can't find what you love. You can't find your body, meaning, okay, I'm a human being and I'm okay. I'm not injured. I'm not sick. I'm not dying. It's all in my head. And so on my phone, I have a couple of sayings, or kind of mantras or statements, verses and thoughts that really help me. And one of them is, laugh at your anxiety. It's not real. Laugh. Because when I'm stuck in my head, and maybe this is a helpful tip for you, everything seems so real. And so what I've learned through 10 years of working on this, and a lot of support and spiritual guidance and therapy and all kinds of books and stuff, is to move towards the truth. And as I said, the breath helps me. Remembering, excuse me, what is and isn't true helps me. And these statements, these things that I've written in my phone, they really help me to center my mind on what's true. The Bible says in Philippians 4, whatever is true, think on these things. And so, but I find that you have to sometimes move away from your head if you are a head type. You have to move towards your body. And so working out is very important for those that are in the head triad. Heart, giving to others, serving others. So one of the things I do when I'm in my head too much is I find practical ways to love other people. And so you have to know yourself. That's obviously right, Aristotle. Know thyself, to thyself be true. You have to know yourself. Otherwise, you're showing up in the world just like a chicken with a head cut off, angry, or you're trying to overgive, overserve, or you're feeling so unsafe, meaning like there's no stability around you. You have to be conscious of our own devices, our own vices, and move towards virtue. And so, and the quickest way to do that, I have a bunch of diagrams. I don't have any right here with me, but I have a bunch of diagrams and trainings that I do. You can just go to my YouTube channel, which is where I recommend you follow me, because there's playlists and there's lots of videos there. You can follow along and learn some of these different techniques and tools that I teach. All biblical, of course, coming from a spiritual angle and a spiritual foundation. But what I teach is that when you're stuck in a certain place, to move towards the other centers of intelligence. So I already mentioned what the head, those in the head triad need to do, or in the head center. Move towards your heart, move towards your body. For those that are in their body, meaning in their anger, in their rage, in their perfectionism or withdrawing or controlling, to move towards your mind. Okay, is this logical? Does this person really hate me? Are they really out to get me? Does this make any sense, what I'm believing? So you're moving away from your body towards your mind, or towards your heart. Do the things that bring you joy and serve other people. Use kind of like the other, wings to get you out of that space that you're in. And so if you are in the gut triad, and anger is a thing you deal with, then you want to move towards loving other people, serving other people, towards your heart. Connect with your family. Pick up your young son and just embrace him. No telling him what to do or bossing him around, or do your homework. That's staying in your gut, but move towards your heart. Let that young child, hold your wife's hand. Last night we were watching one of those sad movies, The Notebook. Have you guys seen that? I think back in the early 2000s it came out. Wow. And what happened after that? I held my wife's hand, as we went to bed, just because it was so connecting with my heart, and it moved me away from thinking, overthinking. Now, for those in the heart triad, right now, you're probably doing repressed, or maybe you are thinking repressed. So you want to move away from your heart towards action. So actually do something. If you have a meeting, show up to the meeting. If you have an appointment to get your hair done or your nails, go to that appointment. If you haven't worked out in 8-9 weeks, go for that run. Move towards your body. Move towards the mind. Maybe do something that engages your brain. Read versus being on Facebook, except for QOTD, of course. Read something that motivates and stimulates your mind. Maybe something dealing with math. I know. I love math. I'm one of those crazy guys. Something with accounting, something with language, something... maybe don't stay in your heart, meaning music and creative stuff and feeling. That's us, right? But move towards, in my case, mowing the lawn, or for you, maybe it's maybe making a little flower arrangement just from your own garden, or your own, maybe you have just a couple flowers around your neighborhood or your apartment or whatever, and make a nice arrangement and give it to someone that you love. Move towards your heart. Move towards your mind and move towards your action. And that will calm that sense of either envy that I don't have what others have, or failure, I'm not doing enough, or of pride that I'm so good, I'm so amazing, and everybody should be like me. So move away from those vices and to move towards, as I said, your other kind of wings. So let me see if I actually have that drawing here. I've talked about this before, this training. And I want to see, excuse me, if I can bring this up and show you a drawing of this that I've done before so that you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about here. Well, I guess this might help. Okay, let's see this one. Let's see if you can see this one. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if, okay, that's there. And now let me bring that up here. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so you see my twin brother there at the bottom. It's pretty funny. So now here, as you see, you've seen this before if you've been a part of my channel here for a while. This is a training that I do. I offer for free to understand, as I said, the inward journey, to understand the motivations behind what we do. And so if you see here, I don't know if you can see my pointer there, the mouse, but the 8, 9s, and 1s, the leader or boss, peacemaker, mediator, the reformer, perfectionist, they are in the anger triad, or as I said, the gut center of intelligence. Amazing people. I mean, they change the world. You ever had an amazing boss? I mean, I know all of us can say we've had terrible bosses, but have you ever had a leader lead you with compassion and with grace, and yet they are clear in where they're going and they're going to, I mean, it's a gift. Have you ever been around mediators, peaceful people? I mean, as I said, every one of these 9 types is a gift to our world, to this earth. But these 8, 9s, and 1s, as I said, they are in the anger triad. They, underneath the boss, peacemaker, reformer, is an anger that sometimes is pushed down because of shame or because of religion or because of upbringing or fear, or, but underneath brews this sometimes righteous, sometimes unrighteous anger. And so for those, if you identify with that, they say that most people in societies are in the 5, 6, and 7 triad, the fear triad. So, but I definitely know many people in the 8, 9, and 1 triad. And so for those, you want to move towards the heart, which is the 2, 3s, and 4s. You want to move towards the head, towards the 5, 6, and 7. And so, I mean, in this chart, the Enneagram, of course, I'm talking about, is very, I know there's a lot here, but I'm just keeping it simple for now to help you understand kind of how to not give in to that anger or to that over-feeling or overthinking. And so for the 2, 3s, and 4s, who would be, what they call them here, the giver, helper, performer, motivator, that's, I'm a 3, the romantic artist. You are right now, because it's hard to do a lot right now, or to give or help anyone, or to be unique as a romantic artist. It's difficult right now. There's no audience anywhere. Right now, we can be struggling. So you want to move towards anger. I don't mean anger as in the low side of anger, but as in your body. And that's why I said you want to move towards working out, towards mowing the lawn, towards going out for a drive and getting in your car if you can, and go somewhere where you can think. This is now moving into the head, into your head, into your logic. Go out and think about what you're doing. Think about the logic behind, if you're feeling like, oh, I'm such a failure. Are you really? If you're feeling like, oh, I can't help anybody, I mean, you have helped a ton of people before, right? So you want to move away. Excuse me, I'm going to get some water here. Excuse for a second. See if I can mute this here for a second. Ask my mommy for some water. The joy of having my mom here. She's visiting for a few months and now she's stuck here, which, hey, I love it. Agua, mamá, me trae, por favor. Gracias, madre. Sin hielo, solamente así. Gracias, madre. My beautiful mom. So, I guess to finish this off, and if you're in the head or in the logic triad, the 5, 6, and 7, as you see there, you want to move towards your heart. So the Epicure, the generalist, the 7, they're called them also the adventure types. The 7s are also struggling right now because there's not a lot of adventure happening these days, right? Everything's so internal and fear-based or anger-based. And so you might be living in your fear a lot because the 5, 6, and 7s, as you see there, our deadly sin is fear. Now, the 7s may hide that. They repress that. They're like, I'm not afraid. And so they always are kind of like the FOMO thing, fear of missing out. I'm going to do more and do more. And I'm going to just keep not so much doing more, but seeking a thrill. But underneath that is a fear and anxiety that resides there. The 6 is the loyalist or the questioner. And the same thing is true. The 6s, they might be doing well or they might struggle because right now, because everyone's home, there might be a sense. I have 6 in me as well. As you can tell, the 3, the 9, the 3, the 6, and the 9 are all connected. You see a lot of arrows here. And so for those of us that are either 3, 6, and 9, since we have all 3 of them in us, we all have all of them. It's just that we show up in the world with one primarily, something that you've been doing since you were maybe in your teens or maybe even childhood, if you can remember that far back. But when I'm in my 6, what was I saying? That it could be good and bad because right now, because everyone's home, you can have a sense of like, okay, I'm safe because there's safety in numbers. But other times when you begin to, like I read the other day, something I shouldn't have read about Brazil. And if you've been reading stuff like that, hello, Goso, Constantina. Hello, my dear friend. Thank you for being here. Goso Nation. Wonderful to see you here. Your birthday was just recently, right? I think I sent you a Goso birthday wish. Thank you for being here. So what was I saying? So I was, so if you're a 6, the loyalist questioner, then you're in your head. And so the other day, yesterday I was reading and it's something about Brazil and it just got my head in the fear mode. And so I had to move away from that. Daisy, our dog, is chasing some squirrels probably. And so we have to move away from that fear, not stay in that, be self-aware, but not just stay there, but you have to move towards the gut or towards the heart. So as I said last night, our family watched Sending You Love, Dear. Yes. I always love seeing your love. Thank you, Constantina. A joy to have you as my friend. I think through our beautiful Alicia, right? I think that's how we, quote, met. She was just on my show a couple of weeks ago talking about, the refugee experience and her passion, of course, for generosity and immigrant life. And, of course, as an advocate for those who've been abused for way too long. Very relevant stuff, even more now, obviously. So, move away from the head and towards. So what I was saying is I was in my head. Well, this was last night, but before that, as I mentioned, when I'm in my head, I've learned to move towards my heart or towards my body. So as I said earlier, we watched a movie last night and it was so romantic and very endearing. And so Rochelle was next to me and we were, there was a little table between us, but I reached across the table and held her hand. And then when we were getting ready to go to bed, I held her hand once again and told her, you are the love of my life. I know. But see, you have to do those things. If you're in your head, you have to move towards your heart. You have to move towards your body. In other words, that's why yoga is so important for those that are in the fear triad to move, because that's all about the body, about the breath. And it also has that spiritual component of connecting, with God and resting in God's grace. So that is All well and good, as they say. Let's see. How do I get back? Here we go. There we go. To my loveliness. So, how are you doing? How are you doing? Is the question of the day. Let's see. I love these comments here. Now, I heard that this software that I'm using, it's so sweet. This is so interesting, so important to be aware. Yes, my soul sister, Adley. Her and I talk once every 4 months. I know. She's so lovely with her baby boy and her new husband, and how amazing. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, the Enneagram is a tool that I use, that I teach, that has been around for many years. And you could call it a personality type of thing, typology, as I call it. But as I've studied it now for 10 years, it's a spiritual journey that talks about the motivations of how we show up in the world. So there are 9 types, and if you want to learn more, obviously online, but also on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist all dedicated to the Enneagram. But yeah, greetings to you and to your beautiful family. Do you live in Greece, Constantina? Is that where you are? Or are you local? Or am I totally off? Which happens to me often. Let me drink my water, by the way. So we had some guests here yesterday from Iceland, of course, Singapore, some of Ali's family. I think those are the ones that were the most interesting, that weren't local to the U.S. here. Of course, Nicaragua, my country of origin, a lot of my family and friends that are back home, they come in and say hello. But yeah, it's wonderful to see. I think we had someone from Finland. Was that Finland? Yeah, I could be wrong. But, I'm on 7 different platforms. And so a lot of our international, quote, followers or tribe members, they mostly watch me through Twitch or Periscope, just because those platforms tend to be more global, kind of like WhatsApp. Everybody uses it globally. Not so much here in the U.S., of course, but so those platforms, I enjoy streaming to them because of that global connection, to connect with this tribe of us empaths, bright, intelligent types who are in the head triad, but we kind of go back and forth between the knowledge and the heart. And so a lot of my tribe, I don't call them audience because they're not listening to me, but a lot of my tribe, the people that come together here in this channel, we are very much head types. We are very logical. We have amazing, brilliant minds. Some could say maybe a little too brilliant for our own good, a little loony toony. But we also play in the heart field. We're very much a people of empathy and of love. Now, we probably are action repressed. Our bodies betray us. And so this is why this is so important to know thyself, as Aristotle said, and to show up in the world as you are, but then to learn how being yourself can be detrimental sometimes to your own goals, to love, to collaboration, to excellence, to accomplishing your goals, to collaborating with other people. So all those things are very important for you and I to learn about and to be aware of our tendencies, so that we can know our motivations, our tendencies, and move towards more healthy patterns, so that we can accomplish our dreams, help other people, show up in the world, be the spiritual beings that we are, be the creatives and the reformers that we long to be be the adventure seekers. And right now, obviously, we need reformation. We need people of peace. We need leadership. We need empaths. We need music and writing and expression. I mean, I grew up in a country where war and art was always, they were married, like they usually are. Here in the U.S., thankfully, we haven't experienced a lot of war or art that comes from pain. I don't mean just like, mental health pain, which of course is very important, real, but I'm talking about civil unrest pain. Obviously, the African culture, because I have that DNA in me, we know pain, and of course, all the spirituals, many of the hymns came from those painful experiences, not only here in the U.S. but back in Africa, in Latin America, of course, with all of the turmoil in the 80s, 90s, and even now, Venezuela and Nicaragua, where my family's from, where I'm from, and many other countries in Central America, El Salvador, and I mean, you name it, South America, Bolivia, and Argentina, and Peru, and Chile. I mean, but married to that struggle, political and economic struggle, comes some of the most beautiful art, beautiful music, beautiful poetry, spoken word, beautiful paintings, and creativity that comes out as a soul longs to try to make sense, or if anything, maybe express the pain through music and through art, through literature, through writings. And that's the beauty of my tribe. We are those kinds of people that navigate back and forth between our minds, our brilliant understanding. Someone must have allergy out there. Our brilliancy of seeing things clearly, of knowledge, of understanding, but also our heart. Now, the thing to be aware of, Miami currently. Okay, split my ear. Okay, great. Thank you, Constantina. Yeah, Miami, great. Well, greetings. So glad, Miami. How wonderful for you. Have you found a community there that you connect with in Miami? Miami, Florida. A lot of Cuban, a lot of Spanish, right? A lot of salsa and a lot of hot music there in Miami, Florida. What a beautiful town that must be. And so we have to then, if those of us that are in the heart triad or in the head triad, we have to move towards action, towards getting that record done, towards getting that book finished, towards completing that degree, towards moving to activism. I have Moon Drummers. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. 6 months. Yeah, definitely. That would make sense here with the ocean and just all of the culture there, of course, right? That makes sense. And so we have to move towards the head. Towards the body, towards finishing that project, towards the protest, towards doing something magical. Empaths, light workers, exactly. All of the empaths, as well as I said, the kind of a lot of my tribe are also head types in the good and bad sense of the word. We are needed, logic and as well as empathy. But really, if you think about the gut types, the doers, the ones that get things done, that shake things up, the leader types, the reformer types, the peacemakers that are in the gut triad, they definitely are. Really, everyone's needed. Isn't that the beauty of what's happening right now? Everyone is needed. I think the thing to know in this training, that's why I believe in these trainings, is to understand some of the vices that can hurt our very motives, or not our motives, but our very purpose, that can hurt our goals. And so, one of the things that I always struggle with is finishing my songs. So like most artists, we have so much stuff in our computers and our phones and our voice memos and our journals, right? And it's never recorded for consumption. And so we have to, as heart types, empaths, as well as logic types, as well as gut types, we have to, but I think especially us empaths, we have to move towards completion. We have to move towards deadlines. And it's the hardest thing because it feels restraining and it feels so boring and mundane. But imagine if all those spiritual singers had never written down their songs, or someone hadn't. Mostly it was an oral tradition. If people hadn't passed that on and they're like, I'm tired. I won't teach my son that song that I heard. We would have lost so much. And so for us empaths, we have to complete. We have to compete. Another terrible word that I don't like, but you know what I mean. We have to show up in the world and be counted and be heard. The meditation that I gave yesterday for my spiritual community was about that, was about not competition, but about being in the world through our unique story. And, for those of us that grew up in this country, and as I mentioned yesterday, I mostly have worked for 30 years in the white evangelical church. And so it's been easy for me, out of fear, out of training, out of nurture and nature, and just my personality, to hide and to not tell my story of all the prejudice and racism and hateful comments that I've experienced for 30 years in the white Christian church. I don't hate it. It's given me a lot of opportunities, but it's also taken a lot from me. And it's not about, well, if you don't like it, then leave. That's, of course, hate. That's, of course, division. What I mean is we have to tell our stories as empaths. And that's why I love, of course, Ali and all the different artists that are showing up in the world, that are creating those expressions, so that it's not just for now, but so that there can be a record of this tragedy, of this painful experience that the whole world is going through. As I said, growing up in Nicaragua, I still go back to the songs of my childhood when I was 8, 9, and 10, and there was a war happening outside my home. I go back to that, and someone would be like, why? Because that is what's in me. I don't mean hate or war. No, pain, suffering, and then survival. My dear mother, how she cared for me. You know how George Floyd was crying for his mom, even though she already had been deceased. He was crying out for the most precious person in his life. The same goes for me. My mom, thankfully, as I said, she's here literally right outside this door visiting. But the reason why I go back to the pain of my childhood and to the storytelling and to the songs of my youth that are what we used to call protest songs or songs of war is because they declare and they paint a powerful picture of pain, injustice, racism, hate, violence, but with a tinge of spirit, of looking for an answer, of peace, of protest, and of justice. And so, of course, it connects me back to who I am today, and obviously now more than ever, right? So yeah, Omar, he says Michael Sweet songs, man, Striper, right, Omar? Exactly. I mean, those songs of our youth. If you're a Striper fan, man, what do they call them? The bees, the killer bees, the bees for the Lord. I forget. I had my dear friend Tim. He used to play drums. We used to play together in a band, and he always would bring his Striper T-shirts. Man, what a great, great memory. Big Striper fan. But expression is important right now for us empaths, for us spiritual beings, and to move towards the doing, towards the body, towards action. I have tattoos, and people criticize me, especially in the church, right? I mean, you don't want to know. Horrible stories. Guess what's in my arms? You think like I have some devil stuff? No, it's my story of my pain, of my childhood, and of the hope in me. And that's another way, body art, you could call it, that people express. And a lot of times it's the urban or the black and brown cultures. Those not in power, they can't just, well, I'm going to go tell my, my elected official. They don't have access to these traditional authorities. And so we express through body art, through paint, through protests, through songs of protest, through I Have a Dream speeches in front of the Lincoln Memorial. These epic moments, Nelson Mandela, in jail for 17 years. We express our suffering and our survival through art, through pain. My tattoos bring me healing. Exactly. And I think the tragedy, especially, speaking again as a man in the Christian church, which I love, it's the faith of my youth, and I continue to stand for my faith. It's been the loudest voice against my art in my arms because of, thugs or, people in jail and all of that. And even those people in jail, what are they expressing? Their pain, their suffering, their anguish, the injustice of it all, including their own mistakes. All of it. Humanity, in other words. But anyway, this is not about tattoos. This is about expression. This is about showing up. This is about knowing also the vice behind. Now, what's the weakness of the empath? What's the danger, the vice? As I said, envy, pride, failure. Us empaths, we struggle with envy. We can be motivated in all of our healing out of envy. We want to have what others have, the influence, the material things, the status, the affection. The threes, back to the Enneagram, and I'm a 3, we deal with failure, a deep sense of failure and shame. All of us in the heart triad, our vice is shame and feeling of unworth. And so exactly, yeah. And so ego and ego is obviously in all types, all 9 types. But for those that are empaths, that envy, the 2s, the 3 failure. For the 4s is for the 2 is pride. For the 3s is failure, and for the 4 is envy. And so behind the 3's achievement and wanting to do a lot, there's really this deep sense of failure. Like I'm never going to accomplish enough. And if I can only do one more thing, then maybe I will receive the love and affection that I'm longing for. And then the 4s, the empath, the traditional empath in the Enneagram, their virus, I was going to say, but their deadly sin or their vice is envy. And I guess I mentioned, I confused. The 2 is pride. The 3 is failure. The 4 is envy. So for the 4, I already mentioned this, is wanting what others have. There's something missing in my being. I want to be so unique, and I want to be so unlike anyone else. I don't wear the same clothes that everyone wears. I don't go to the same shows. That's so boring. That's so mundane. But behind that longing to be so unique is really envy, is a deep sense of, if I only had their influence, their marriage, their home, their finances. And it's not all materialism. So it's not about, in fact, many of the heart triads would say that we don't care about money, and it's true. But it's envy more in terms of the affirmation that others have, or the opportunities that others have that we don't have. It's that sense of something's missing. There's always something inherently missing. And yet, what does the Bible teach us? That we are created wonderfully and perfectly. From Genesis 1, Psalm 139, the Bible says that David says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And that my soul knows very well. So, David there in the Psalms is expressing this powerful truth to the 4s, to the empaths, to say, no, there's nothing missing from you. Your heart isn't missing. Your body isn't missing. There isn't anything missing in your childhood, but you're like, yes, there is. My mom this, or my parents, or my own actions, or I'm not unique enough, or nobody follows me online. I don't have an audience. And of course, we mask that, as I said, through creativity and through service and loving or achievement. But behind it, there is this shame. And so how do we tame that ego, that false self? That first you have to accept it. It's a part of you. And so I'm not one to want to kill that, because you would just kill yourself. Now, in our Christian tradition, we believe that in eternity, we will finally, quote, conquer death. Jesus conquered death on the cross. So positionally, we as followers of Jesus have conquered sin, death, ego. But practically speaking, the Bible says that we are still working out our salvation. Philippians 1 says that God began a good work in us through his son Jesus, and he's completing that work, meaning we're still working this out. Now, I think the beauty of the Christian faith and tradition is that we have an advocate. We have the Holy Spirit, divinity, not self, not the divine me, not me as a divine being, meaning it's still just contained within me. But we're talking about, as some call it, source. In the Christian tradition, we're talking about Jesus and his Holy Spirit, not the Jesus figure or necessarily a Jesus type or Jesus energy, but literally a being outside of us that loves us like a father loves his son. And I'm telling you, not only that loves us, but then I preached on this yesterday, that gave his life for that ego. That ego that needs to be condemned, that we hate, that people want to throw rocks at, that we can't stand. The Bible teaches us that Jesus, it says in John 17 or John 15, that no greater love has a man than this, than to lay down his life for a friend. And that's the beauty of what Jesus did. Hebrews 4 says that for the joy set before him, Jesus endured the cross. That he literally died with joy in his heart because he knew that through his death, he was taking that shame, that envy, that failure, that pride, and nailing it to the cross, condemning it forever, removing it from us, and giving us a new heart. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful narrative that, as I said, I've given my whole life to, and I believe 100%. And it's a beautiful thing to believe in God, to have Jesus at the center of it all. There's a song that we sing called, that says Jesus at the center. It says, Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. From beginning to the end, it will always be. It's always been you, Jesus. Nothing else matters. Nothing in this world will do. Jesus, you're the center. Everything revolves around you. Jesus, you. Beautiful song that just always focuses me back on the person of Jesus, the Son of God, who died on the cross, a human being that loved us, didn't treat us as slaves, it says in that passage. I talked about this yesterday in my meditations. He doesn't treat us, Jesus says, after he says, make my joy complete, love one another. And then when he says, no greater love exists than to lay down his life for a friend. Then he says, I no longer call you slaves. I call you friend. And so I talked about slavery, modern slavery, racial reconciliation, the need for friendship. And I love the Greek word there. Speaking of Greek, the word obviously for friendship is phileo. But within in the Aramaic, the word there means joined at the hip. It means being in the same womb with another. And so I talked about how beautiful it is that Jesus calls us friends, meaning that we are one, that we have the full rights, that we have access, that we have oneness with Jesus, the Savior of the world. We're not slaves. A slave has no rights. He says there, a slave doesn't know anything. He is kept in the dark. But a friend, he has every right that the owner has. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful picture there of what love really is. And so you may want to check that out again on my YouTube page. I talked about this yesterday. It's called True Love. Well, my dear friends, I want to thank you for being here. Again, Constantina, love to you. And anyone else here who stuck around. Brett Davis, Omar, thank you guys for being here on the 7 different platforms. You may only see a 1 on your end, but that's because I'm really famous and popular. Share this broadcast. That's my ego talking, my 3. See, I'm always like, oh, I'm failing. But I have to constantly work against that and just know that I am enough regardless of how many 1s or 2s I see on the screen. Thank you for being here. Share this broadcast with your friends. So much love to you as well. Help this message to get out there. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.